It. We're live. Hello everybody, and welcome to the latest installment of Data with Dexter, where I am delighted and honoured to welcome Steve Prokopiou, who I think I've actually pronounced that correctly. You tell me if it's incorrect. I normally finish it at the Proc, and I think quite a lot of people know you by that, Steve. Who we're going to talk about. Beyond the tech, all things data culture. But before I introduce Steve in a little bit more detail, welcome and thank you, Steve. Hello.
Hello, Mark. Glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, no, absolutely delighted, as I say. Now, I'm not going to say how long I've known Steve for, but it's more than a couple of years. I think we first crossed paths when Steve was at a little software company called Business Objects, which some of you may have heard of. Then via consulting, kept in touch with Steve, a business called IM Group, and then he landed at another small software company called Tableau, you might know them, before going to Mars, Elsevier, Inmarsat, First Central Insurance. What a pedigree. And for the last 6 or so months has been head of data literacy and enablement at Ortecha. So if somebody's going to be able to talk to us about data culture, then it's certainly Steve. So really, without welcome, Steve, and thanks for joining me. Straight into just sort of setting the scene here, then. You've spent, you're giving the game away here, 30 years or 30 plus years leading analytics and data literacy initiatives. When did the penny drop for you, and when did you realize that culture and literacy mattered just as much, if not more, than the technology?
Well, with all that intro and that question, you're making me feel quite old, Mark. Thanks very much.
Sorry, I know, but yeah, we can't hide from it. I know I'm older than you, so yeah.
I think we both had hair a lot when we first met, and certainly not much grey. But anyway, to answer your question, I think the penny really dropped for me, to use your language. About the time I joined Tableau in 2014. I'd worked for those companies, like you said previously, and very much the attitude was, data is the domain of the experts. Here's another person asking us for a report, and it was very much data was in the sphere of the data professionals. And then I turned up at Tableau, and I went on their boot camp, and quite soon after that, I went to their customer conference, and I go to this customer conference, and customers are hugging their sales guy, and I'm going, what's going on here? I'm used to a culture where the sales guy turns up with a bottle of wine at Christmas to the customer and says, I'm your sales guy, how much are you going to buy next year? So seeing this other angle of, people hugging their salesperson, it wasn't normal to me. And so I got to learn through my early days at Tableau, really the company's whole philosophy was about helping people see and understand data. And so we all made a lot of effort and spent a lot of time with our customers, helping them adopt technology, use it well, have fun doing so, and build out communities. What we now call data literacy. At the even back then, I don't think 2014 even the phrase data literacy wasn't about. But that's really when the importance of people really came to light for me. And I think the first time I ever heard data literacy used was I heard Jordan Morrow, the godfather of data literacy. Yeah. Speaking at a conference around 2018 time, and listening to him, I went, that sounds amazing. That's what I want to do, and sort of gradually, since over those last years, since my time at Tableau, I've more and more moved into this space. And as you say, now I'm at Ortecha as head of data literacy, and it's my job. It's my job to help organizations sort of create and implement people-focused programs to help every individual get comfortable with data and AI, and I love it, and I'm very happy to be doing so. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. I've had a squiggly career journey. I've done lots of different things in the data and analytics space, but this is how I've ended up where I've ended up. I'm happy to be here.
Brilliant. And the passion's coming through there, Steve. And this is what one of the things I love about you is that you love what you do, and I've always had that impression. Little bit off track there because we're talking about data. Well, we're talking about data culture, which of course literacy comes as as a huge part of it. Data literacy or data fluency, and bearing in mind you've just started working with Data Booster. But go on, is that a wormhole we don't want to go around, or?
I mean, for me, I think you have to go with what works for you, right? The best advice I can give is get the definition that works for you and your organization. Be clear what that definition means and stick with it, and make sure that everybody else knows, right? I think like lots of things in the data space, you can get very nuanced and very wordsmithy about. Is it literacy makes me feel illiterate, fluency, enablement, adoption, whatever. Honestly, I don't really. I was going to give it the full Steve there. It's like, decide what's right for you and just go with what it means for you, and people will recognize. Stick with the definition, articulate what it means, and go from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think culture probably covers all of it, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah.
But going back away, I mean, I got asked about self-service analytics, so I can't think when self-service really became a thing, but let's say about 15 or so years ago, and that was about empowering people to use the tech themselves, wasn't it? And to run reports and to get inquisitive and to delve beyond just what they were being served by the tech team or the data team. You rolled this out at Mars.
Yeah.
What did you learn about? Did you see that at the time as sort of enabling it for the masses, or was it a technology piece? And what did you learn from that?
Yeah, it was. Tableau went through a shift in that they started through, and they had a sales model called land and expand, which is they're going to sell a few licenses here, sell a few licenses there, lots of different areas in an organization, and then at a later point seek to cluster those pockets into one larger enterprise deal. And then while I was there, probably about mid time I was there around 2016, they shifted the sales model to be what they called discover and descend, which was sell at an enterprise level, give the technology to everybody, and help organizations adopt the technology. And that's what Mars bought into, which is we recognized that they were going through a digital transformation program. Data was a key element of it. And Tableau sold an enterprise license into Mars, and I was contracted in. I'd left Tableau by this stage to help them with their adoption program. And Mars, is over 100,000 people. So global organization, 100,000 people, the 5th largest privately owned company in the world. Billions of revenue, etc. What did I learn? Executive sponsorship is key. So if you've got the highest possible people, the senior people in the organization, the senior data people, the chief data officer, chief analytics officer, communicating the message that you really have to, really it's important to achieve our business goals, to that everybody gets to see and understand data, to use the Tableau strapline. That really gives you the license to knock on people's door and say, hey, I'm part of the data literacy team. I'm here to help you. What can we do for you? Right. So that's the exec sponsorship is key. Communication. You cannot over communicate, right? So communicating with people via different means, using, videos, using emails, using Teams channels, making it fun, interesting, engaging, think like it's like a marketing campaign for data literacy. So that communication is really key, and often something that people miss when they're doing data literacy and data culture programs, which is we're going to tell people that they have to be data literate, so that's going to be okay, and people naturally, if they're told to do something, they resist. So you have to communicate and help people understand what's in it for them, why it's important. Like today, data is a skill that everybody needs in the workplace. So it's really important people understand the why. And then you have to meet people where they are, which is everybody's busy, everybody's got their job to do. So give them learning and education and the ability to learn in a way that they like to learn. So that could be self-led training, instructor-led training, videos. Make all of that content easy to access and understand. Make it fun. And again, going back to the hugging your sales guy, make it fun and go, oh, look what I learned today about how I can use data better in my job, and make it engaging and like build a community with help people build a community with like-minded people. And it was, if I can digress a little bit, because at Mars, what they did is that they actually had an enterprise license for Tableau and Power BI. And there was, and what they did is very clever, is that they said, we don't mind what tool you use. And my job as part of the data literacy team was creating enablement programs for both Tableau and Power BI, right? Which was interesting. They said, we don't mind which tool you use, just use one. So people would start with Tableau and go, oh, I don't like Tableau, it doesn't really work for me. So then they would end up with Power BI. And then it would go the other way around, is that I started with Power BI, I didn't like it. So it just goes to underline that the tool isn't really the tool is only a means to an end. It's about how people use it, adopt it, integrate it into their day-to-day role. And that really is ultimately what you want to do within a data literacy initiative, is helping people use it naturally as they use email, or they log on in the morning, and so you give people the mechanisms to do that.
So I was laughing there because I was going to throw in Excel, but I had to say that.
Or Excel. And Excel still today, in all these years we've known each other, is the number one BI tool. Deal with it.
First function in any new dashboard, export to Excel. I'm sure. Anyway.
So before, exec sponsorship, communication, meet people where they are. And I've just got to say one more thing about publicity, right? Is that there's nothing. What I learned at Mars is that nothing gained traction or created momentum than, hey, did you know this guy in marketing sold a $4 million deal because he used data better, to be able to, as a competitive advantage? Did you know that this guy in the factory was able to better manage his machinery because he was able to better monitor his data, and how his machines were running, etc., etc. So that gathering the specific use cases and publicizing them unashamedly. Because we're data people, naturally introverted. Nobody really is interested in data, but publicizing it will really created great momentum. So I would say those are four. There's loads more, but
that's really. There's obviously you got so many touch points there, so many value cases that you can draw on, but you can just see it. I mean, the one that stood out to me was the why. The storytelling, the top level sponsorship, and the fact that the tool's just a tool. In fact, I can scrap my next question because it said anyway. The tool doesn't matter as long as the tool's fit for purpose. It doesn't matter which one it is, does it? At the end of the day,
but don't think that buying the tool solves the answer. I mean, that is a common mistake that leaders make, right? Which is and vendors are very guilty of this. I've got to say, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that because I work with vendors a lot of my career, but in professional services. So I would be the guy, if I got one here, I would be the guy, this is how old I am, right? This is when software used to come on a CD, and software was frisbeed out the door, and people are like, there you go, sales guy's happy, he's got his commission check. And then I would get rolled in to say, well, why have you bought this software? What problem are you trying to solve? What do you want to do with it? And go from there. So unfortunately, even today, people think that buying the tool is going to be the magic formula, but it really isn't. You have to help the people and the people, the process, the technology is part of it, and the data, of course.
Totally. Being there myself, many years ago when I was looking to buy CRM candidate tracking tool for a business, and got somebody in, and they just said, the tool's not your problem, it's your data. Run some reports, find out where your issues are, get that clean, and then we'll talk again. It's like, oh, right, okay, totally. So, you've got a star salesman when that happens to you, don't you?
All a tool is going to do is exaggerate, and exacerbate all the problems you've already got. If you don't deal with all of it holistically, then it's just going to magnify your problem. It's not going to solve it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, you've mentioned already, well, I brought up fluency as a bit of an aside, but obviously we're talking about literacy as part of culture. You've mentioned enablement. Now, where should data literacy and governance evolve together? Sort of cart versus before the horse or whatever, but should they run together? Should they be part of the same initiative, or is there a way of siloing it? Or really, if you're talking about enablement, is it all part of the same thing? What's your take on that?
I think in an ideal situation, they're both key enablers for any organization. So the data governance sort of establishes the guardrails around using data sets safely within an organization. It establishes those safe boundaries for people to use it. And then if you've got data in that space where it can be used safely, then giving people the ability and empowering them to use that data within those guardrails to drive forward and make decisions based on accurate, trusted data, it's incredibly powerful, right? I think so if you can combine them, absolutely, that would be ideal. I think the reality is like a number of organizations is they've got legacy spaghetti to deal with, if I can call it that, right? So maybe they would be looking at their data governance challenges first, and then moving into a data culture initiative. I think the good news is increasingly people are recognizing that once you've got stewards and data, things like data stewards in place, librarians, people looking after that data and making sure it's accurate, timely, all the rest of it, dealing with the business definitions, etc. Then data on its own doesn't do anything. So you have to help people find the data, access the data, and use it. And so they do the governance and trust it. And trust it. The governance and the culture increasingly is together. We're working with an organization at the moment in the emergency services space, and we are to help them achieve their business objectives, because all of this is about achieving business value and achieving business objectives. Of course. We've identified that data culture and data governance are the two key enablers for everything that they want to do. Because data is the core of everything right now. But as I say, data on its own doesn't do anything. You have to sort of curate it, place it into safe boundaries, and then make it accessible so that people can access it to make informed decisions.
So is it fair to say that, I get your governance rules right, get the people in place, make sure that everyone knows who owns it. That will then drive adoption, which means that your culture initiative can then start to really gain some traction. And then might they start to converge, I guess. And this is I don't want to get hung up on buzzwords, as you've always kind of said, but this is when we can start getting into enablement, because I like many people I've always had a problem with the word governance in data governance, and it puts loads of people off, doesn't it?
It does.
But if you're talking about enablement, the whole piece, you suddenly your choirs singing together.
And they are increasingly coming together, and especially in this AI age that we've moved into, which is
19 minutes, first mention of AI. Well done. Thank you.
Oh, we've done very well. We've
done very well, but absolutely, you can't not, can you? But sorry, Steve, carry on.
I think we've done amazingly well. Like 19 minutes in. I'm going to Big Data London in a couple of weeks' time, and I'm gonna get my earplugs in, but I'm gonna have an AI filter on it, because oh my goodness. You've totally lost my track there.
Sorry, I know. I'm sorry. We're
about AI.
Absolutely. How it's all merging together.
Because if AI, it can't do it if it hasn't got the data there, and people are aware of things like hallucinations and those kinds of things. Then it's going to be they're going to be working with rubbish. So it really has to be. It has to be that conjoined, definitely, and I think increasingly the two factors will be considered together.
No, absolutely. As someone that's trying to embed data culture you're going into a business and saying, right, if you're going to use this, you're going to be able to learn that, and you're going to make that decision. And they go, no, the data's rubbish. Why do I bother? End of. It's just like, yeah, you're banging your head against the wall, aren't you?
Yeah,
totally. Now, where would you start? If so there's, as you've always said, there's no magic formula for data literacy. It's about step-by-step change.
Yeah.
Is there I know there's no magic formula, but is there a standard first starting point, a first step that most organizations would take to start on this journey?
Do you want here's the consultant's answer. It depends. I don't think there is a standard first step for anybody, because everybody starts from a different place, right?
Okay.
So the first step that I would always recommend is just understand your why. Why are you looking to do this? Why are you looking to create a data literacy program? What are you looking to improve? What's the business change that you're looking to engineer, right? And one way of doing that is you just simply run a survey or a questionnaire to your stakeholders, to your user community, and say, what's working well for you at the moment, what isn't working well, what skills do you wish, are you looking to acquire, and that will help you identify gaps that you might have, right? Ideally, then you're able to gain or make a case for getting senior level sponsorship within an organization that say, absolutely, that should be something that we can do. You get sponsorship, you get funding, and again, ideally, it's sponsored at the highest level by the CEO and the board, and they say, this is a strategic imperative. Let's go do. It's part of our business strategy. Like I had at First Central, it was, we want to be a leading, I wrote it down, we want to be a leading UK insurer and innovator in data. And that was the company's mission. The company's
amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Mission, the company's mission, right?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, the situation even today is not every organization gets this. They don't understand that data skills, AI skills, literacy, culture, fluency, whatever you want to call it, is a business imperative, that data is something that runs through every organization, and that helping everybody with the skills they need. Not everybody is there yet. Let's put it that way. So sometimes you have to start small but have big aspirations. So find your tribe, find those people that thank goodness you're here, Mark. That I've been really looking about how we can extend our data skills, about how we can build a community around data. Let's do some magic, and they will ride the horse and cart with you to sort of create something of value. And then once you've created that value, publicize it, and then start the drumbeat and tell others. And then hopefully you're getting to the point where people go, oh, I saw you were doing that for that guy, Mark, can you come and do that for me in finance? And you can build data literacy programs that way, and I have done that. So what the strategy 101, the big consultancies and others will sell you is it has to be sponsored by the board, and it's got to be top down and blah blah blah. They are right. That is one way of doing it, but it is not the only way. You can. It is possible. It's harder. The transformation will take longer. But you can start bottom up and then grow, use the benefits you've delivered there to have the conversation, to start top down. And then there's also the community building, which is, the in the middle, so you get like-minded people to speak to each other across the departmental silos. So really the transformation is top down, bottom up, and sideways is ideally what you want to ultimately engineer. And the important thing is to get started. Don't chase the perfection of, we've got to, don't chase perfection. Get started, learn, grow, iterate, improve, because these things take time. People do not, you can't sheep dip people and say, have some training, you'll magically be data literate. If you're really doing a literacy program properly, it's got to be people focused, long lived, years, months and years rather than days and weeks. Over time, people build those skills over time, and that's ultimately what you aspire to.
Amazing. And sort of the community piece is enormous. The you've not used the word, but I'm going to use the word allyship, getting your allies in the business, getting people who get it, who've had value from it, whose jobs are enhanced as a result of it, and get them to help you on that journey. I'm sure is sure is massive. Yeah, as you say, ideally a bit of everything. Yeah, chief exec loves it. All the division heads love it. Blah blah blah. But yeah, if you've got people in the trenches who are properly bought into this, I'm sure it goes a heck of a long way. Now, you've got your initiative in place. You've got a business has bought into this. They're only going to buy into it so much without seeing some tangible returns on investment. The data industry's favorite phrase, ROI. You can think of training attendance, great, but if I was talking someone through a CV, I'd go, okay, now, but what did that deliver? Yeah, okay, you've got people on the course. Yeah, okay, fine. You've got people logging in, you've got people using the dashboards, but how would you, as someone that's driving these programs, how would you say, what would you expect to see? What is a return on this, return on investment? What does good look like?
Yeah.
Huge subject, I know.
Very difficult question to answer, but I can give it a go. Really, you're looking for two things. You're looking for the tangible and the intangible metrics, for want of a better expression. The quantitative angle, or the tangible is, right, we did X and we delivered Y for the business. We helped the business, increase revenue. It resulted in X amount of cost savings or time savings, so that those can be quantified.
Go on then. Sorry.
Yeah.
How do you track that back to this? Your initiative?
So, probably I can give a good example about the time saving, where in customer claims at First Central, data was at the core of everything that they did, which is how many customers have we had call up? How many claims did we resolve within a certain amount of time? Did we meet our SLAs? Did we meet our obligations to the various regulatory authorities that we have to deal with, et cetera, and no surprise, like many organizations, and you mentioned it earlier, a lot of that work was done in Excel, right? We worked with them and helped them, replace a lot of their manual Excel work with a more automated data pipeline and some dashboards. Okay. And it meant two things. One was we had increased customer satisfaction because the customers' queries were solved more accurately. More customer queries were solved first time, and you could see the spike in that. That's tangible, and with a customer focused organizations, that's a really key metric. But the other one about time savings is it was something like 0.75 of an FTE over a year in terms of time they could then spend analyzing the data and working with the data and delivering more things off their data request backlog, rather than having to manually copy and paste and clean data within Excel, right? So those time savings can be really tangibly identified. The cost savings about think about how much time people spend trying to find data. Now, absolutely. Right, I spent, every time I've got a query, I do 2 queries a week. Every time I have to spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours finding the right data, right? Now, if you've got something like a data catalog, which means that they go straight away to say, give me the data for, excellent recruiters in the marketplace. Maybe that's not a good example.
Thank you.
Or data literacy experts, and they go, right, here you go. Here's the data I can use now. Right, so 15 minutes twice a week times by 50. However many working weeks. You've got numbers.
There's a salary there.
And I think the other thing is reduced risk. Increased customers retention because of increased customer satisfaction. All of these can be you can measure. And data, accurate use of data, better use of data, more people more literate using that data to drive those outcomes that the business value the business, that's how you can get the ROI, which is, hey, our metrics are going up. This is great. Now, is it all down to data? Of course not. There's other things like process and all the rest of it. But if people can see the data, go, that looks great, we're on the right track, what else can we do to make that even better? Or that's going off kilter, let's navigate the data ourselves and ask questions, ask and answer our own questions to get to the point where I can make a decision or take an action. Then that is really valuable. You're not having to outsource anything to anybody else in that whole data chain. I can find the data, see the data, understand the data, because I'm literate. I've been supported to develop my skills, and then I can take that data informed action, and I can almost do all of that by myself. That's super powerful, and that is where you want to get to in all of this. Gather the data, report the data. Those metrics, like number of people trained, they are important, right? And somebody on another forum talked about them being vanity metrics. Maybe they are. I wouldn't use that definition. They are signs that you are making progress. If you've committed to educate people, in an organization, well, how else do you report what you're doing if you haven't?
Absolutely. You have the same conversation. Sorry, Steve, I'm talking over you. Go on, because I'm really passionate about this myself. But
me too. You have to report at various levels. Yes, ultimately, again, going back to strategy 101, it's the enterprise level, it's the business value, departmental value. Or we all know that, right? But there are metrics at various levels that are applicable and should be applied. At an individual level, it's that confidence in using data. That they've extended their skills. Their confidence level has gone from a 2 to a 4. You can measure that as well. Gather the data and publicize the data. Share those use stories that have helped the business achieve its objectives.
The use stories. There's nothing better. Forget that, whatever the initiative is, in someone on the team going, oh wow, hang on, I've just been able to do this because of this new skill set I've got, because of this course I've been on. It's powerful, isn't it? Absolutely.
It is powerful. And I'm talking over you now. Sorry, we're getting carried away, aren't we, Mark? Sorry.
I was going to say, what got me excited there was, there's a conversation for other people, but you can equate this to a marketing funnel. Your vanity metrics are your clicks on social media. Then where's that end up? If it ends up, or when it ends up with, in the marketing thing, a customer, someone spending money, there's your tangible. There's your end goal. But there are all these steps on the way that you can't ignore. It's got to be part of it.
And that goes back, thanks, Mark. That goes back to something I mentioned earlier about the importance of communication. We did, in many of the organizations you mentioned earlier, I was part of running open to all webinars, which is, what do we do? Everyone's a data person, or do you speak data? Something like that, which is about just communicating the message that data is for everybody. And, what then happens, in that marketing webinar is people go, wow, that's really interesting. I'm really fired up by that. I'll go to the data hub that Steve has set up, the intranet pages, and I'm going to learn some more, and I'm going to learn some more. And, there are more than one story of then that person takes it on themselves to re-engineer the Excel spreadsheet that drives the departmental reporting, produces a Power BI dashboard, or in another tool, a dashboard in another tool, that helps people see data in a different way that they were never able to do before. So it actually has two benefits, which is for that individual, they've learned a new skill. That individual has learned a new skill. They are seen in a different light by those that they work with. And then ultimately that department is able to visualize a different way of using data and use data better to get to their business outcomes, all from starting from, just watching a webinar. So so that's the qualitative side of things, which is how do people feel about data, the case studies, the narratives, the confidence and the feeling. So you have to do both. I am very passionate about this. Is that sometimes starting a data literacy initiative is because it's just the right thing to do. What I mean by that is that it's that today data is, as I said before, data is part of every role, and if you're not helping people use data well within your role, as in if an organization is not helping your people use data well, efficiently with understanding, I think I think that's really bad, because
why bother?
It's a fundamental element of coming to work, is that you get a laptop, you get a login, you get an email account. Nowadays, it has to be that you are helped to use data effectively in your role at work.
End of. And absolutely end of. And it comes back to return on investment. No, I'm not talking about return on investment of a data culture or data literacy program. Return on, in what in many cases is a massive, many years investment in getting their data systems right and getting their data right, and their why bother if it's just going to sit there and gather dust, as the saying goes.
It's going to be well done. You've created a Bluetooth speaker. It's just going to sit on your desk. You're never going to turn it on. You're never going to play any music from it, but it looks amazing. What's
absolutely
the point? What's the point?
No, totally. I mean, which is where it's fundamental, which is where we share a passion, I'm sure. Look, I've got to look at the clock, because we've as expected had plenty to talk about now. I do not want to focus on the negatives at all here, but as somebody that whose job is to drive data culture uptake and initiatives and that type of stuff, what are the most common blockers do you come across? Sorry, wrong question. As someone internal, when you've done this internally, what are the blockers? What stops you embedding a data culture? And I'm sure you can draw on that experience in your current role. Are there any common themes?
I think internally the challenge is time. This concept about and data. I'll get to the data literacy and I'll get to the training once I've done everything else. So people being supported by their leaders and their managers to say, actually, go and do that data literacy training, go and do that training course, go and attend that webinar, attend the data conference. So because people see it as if I've got the time, as a nice to have, rather than core to the role. Going back to the comment I was just making. So I think that is a common challenge. Sorry, I couldn't make, more than one occasion in my last role is we had half the people turn up to a training class because I'm really sorry, something urgent came up, right?
Hate it. Hang on. This may not be urgent now, but this is really important.
So I think that giving individuals the time and it being seen as an important strategic initiative as everything else that's going on, I think that internally that is a common challenge. And the not considering data skills as an integral part of everything that you do, any output, any product that is being delivered, that's also a common challenge, which is we're just going to fix everything. We're going to just sort of hardwire the data spaghetti to put something together to create something, and we'll worry about the adoption and the training about how we're going to use the data after we've done all of that. Well, if you think about the problem you're trying to solve and adoption as part of the answer, that's going to get you to a better place rather than considering it afterwards. So I would say that those two.
Okay, fabulous. No, thank you. I know we're only mentioned AI once so far. I'm going to mention it again, because you can't work in data and not be involved in AI at the moment. I mean, it's a simple. Can't work in a lot of roles and not be involved in AI at the moment. What role does literacy play in making sure that these initiatives succeed? Because like all tech, if you want to call it, initiatives over the years, majority of them struggle. How can data literacy make sure that more and more of these things succeed?
Yeah, I think, data or even AI literacy is really important. I mean, and AI sort of really brings it to the fore, right? I mean, it is a transformational technology. Let's be honest with ourselves. It really is, has the potential to be transformational beyond anything that we've seen before. But the other aspect of it is you really have to understand when to use AI, right? And the first question that everybody needs to be helped to answer is AI even the right tool for this job? I think there is a feeling in the marketplace where, well, AI can solve it, AI can solve it, AI can solve it. Not always. It's not always the right tool. It's like, sometimes a drill, what you need a drill instead of a spanner, right? So just first of all is AI the right tool for the job? If it is, then helping people access the tools safely within the right guardrails, and understanding the risks involved in using AI. Don't put confidential information into a public domain, for example. Don't let the model train on your confidential data. Make sure it's a private tenant, that kind of thing. And being able to critically assess what AI brings back to you, so that you don't take it verbatim, because AI gets it wrong. It does, make sure that you have all those kinds of skills. So, you have to do all of the above and other things as well, so that your AI initiatives succeed instead of just burning the budget, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's going to become more and more intertwined, isn't it? You're not going to be able to escape the fact that so many data initiatives are part of an AI initiative, or whether it's the AI as been put in a hurry and is not working, so we've got to go back and get the data right, but then the culture will drive that, and the whole thing's gonna, it's probably another subject. It's another conversation, because it's kind of all encompassing, isn't it? And as you say, it's so transformational. But no, I thought we had to touch on it, and thank you. Now, last few slightly more light-hearted questions. If you weren't, doing this, if you weren't working in the data world, what would you be doing instead? What did the teenage Steve Prok want to do?
Oh, blimey! The teenage Steve Prok, I was into data at that age. When I did start working, I was on an old BBC computer at school. I loved it. I did a computer science degree. I was really into data from a young age, but how things have evolved, and I talked about my squiggly career. If I wasn't in data, I would be doing something with people. Even though I've worked in the data space all these years, I naturally gravitated away from the coding and the code geekery, if you like, into how do I help people, by translating what they're asking for to the data teams. That's what I spent most of my career doing, and helping people. So I think if I wasn't in the data space, I would be doing something like that. I was in between jobs 6 years ago, just before COVID hit, and I ended up working a Christmas season at John Lewis in their Christmas department. Amazing. Absolutely loved it. Something that involves travel. I've always loved traveling and people and different cultures and languages. Something like that.
Yeah, no, and it's a huge asset having the people skills, being interested in people, being a communicator, to be able to work in data. There's no doubt that's helped you over the years. No, fascinating. If you had the chance to make one significant change in the world, how would you change the world, Steve?
What a question. I think, going back to my, data is for everybody. I would love it if children from a very young age were helped, educated in data. And it's just like, not just this is a spreadsheet. It's just like just helping to absorb, and for them to be natural to them, for data and AI and whatever comes next, for it to be natural to them to utilize in what they do every day. Because a lot of the work that I do is that didn't happen. There's people out there, lots of people that didn't go into data when they were 16, like I did, right? And then that builds fear. It removes confidence. Because they don't feel naturally inclined to utilize. I'm not a data person. Well, you kind of are, but so I guess it's given me a job. But I would love it if every child was educated about what data is, why it's important, and they see it as a valuable life skill like they do reading and writing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's you go back to the grassroots of that. If everybody was, to a degree, it's almost teaching critical thinking, isn't it? It's like, what is behind this, rather than just what's the headline, what's the hype. Yeah. Why is this happening? What's driving this? Yeah, make a massive difference. I think I think it's fab. I think you're in the right job, Steve. Marvelous. Finally, lighter note. What would your last meal be? I love my food. Always ask this one.
Yeah, lighter note, but last meal. That's kind of a bit of.
I know. Yeah, okay. It should be. What's your favourite meal? Go on then. Last meal is it's dark. What's your favourite meal?
I think my favourite meal is sitting on a beach in Cyprus, where my family comes from. I'm eating fresh watermelon that has just been cut. I've got the sand between my feet. The sun is shining. Happy days. That is my happy place. I love it. And when I do have the chance to go to Cyprus, I always do that. And sometimes wash it down with a nice glass of cup of Greek coffee.
So it's the place and the people as much as anything for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you when it comes to gin and tonics. I think a gin and tonic is a decent enough drink. You have a gin and tonic in the right place, and it's fabulous. So yeah. That's not my favorite food, by the way. Steve, thank you. That's been fascinating, enlightening, and actually quite a deep dive into some subjects there, which is great, I think, and also is also part of the point. The idea is to educational as well as hopefully informative, as educational, informative as well as hopefully slightly entertaining. But loads of great stuff there. Thank you so much. We've got some questions here which I hadn't seen because I had them covered up.
Okay, let's go.
No, they're not. No, they're thanks. Great conversation. But no questions there. We've got 2 minutes. Does anybody want to ask a question? Is there anything that we've not covered that we should have done? And anything anybody wants to know? No. There's a comment there about empowering people is powerful from Marie. Amazing. Look, everybody knows how to find Steve. He's on LinkedIn. He's at Ortecha. Thank you for joining us today, but also this will be recorded and distributed, and people will have a chance to pick up some bite-sized chunks of this over the next few weeks. And Steve will be there for any questions. But thank you, Steve. Honestly, really enjoyed it. Fascinating. And thank you again to everyone that joined us.